Parallel lines have the exact same slopes. They never cross, and those little arrows are the symbols you put on lines so people believe you that your lines are parallel. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Opposite sign, so if it's positive, it flips to negative. If it's negative, it flips to positive. And reciprocal means you flip the fraction over. Perpendicular lines cross at a right angle, and you use that little box to show that you have a 90-degree angle. The first example, we're going to find an equation parallel to that. So first I'm going to graph that line. I'm going to start up 6, and I'm going to go up 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. So our job is going to be to find an equation of a line parallel to that. We want it to go through the point 2, 3. So we want it to go right through that red dot right there. So hopefully when we write our equation, our lines will be parallel. Since they're going to be parallel, we know that our slopes will be the same. Since this slopes 3 over 2, the slope of our new line will also be 3 over 2. So we'll take the m and the x and the y that we just labeled and plug them into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So for the y, we'll plug in 3. For the slope, we'll plug in 3 over 2. For the x, we'll plug in 2. And we'll solve for b. So 3 times 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. So 3 equals 3 plus b. We'll subtract the 3 from both sides, and we get 0 equals b. So our equation for the line is our slope, 3 over 2x, plus our y-intercept, which is 0. So to graph that line, we'll start at 0, count our slope up 3 over 2, 1, 2, 3 over 2, and sure enough, that line goes right through the red one, and those two lines are parallel. If I were to graph this line, y equals 5x minus 3, I would start down 3 on the y-axis, and I would count up 5 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. It's a pretty steep slope. I'll connect those dots. And we want our new line to be parallel to it, and it needs to go through 1, 4. So 1 over 4 up. It needs to go through that red dot right there. So these two lines are going to be pretty close. That's okay. So into y equals mx plus b, we will plug in our slope, the same exact slope as that. We can leave off the over 1. And so this will look like our y number 4 equals our slope, which is 5, times the x number, which is 1, plus b. So we'll solve that. 5 times 1 is 5. We'll subtract that 5 from the other side, and we get b equals -1. The final answer here is the equation y equals our slope, which is 5, next to the x, and then our y-intercept, -1. When I graph that line, I'll start at the y-intercept down 1 and go up 5, right 1, and it does go through that red dot, and you can see that our lines are very close together, but they are parallel. So I'll put the little parallel symbol on them. Parallel, and those lines up there as well were parallel. if we want to draw a line perpendicular to this line, first let's look at what our line looks like on the graph. It starts up 2, because that's a plus 2, and our slope is -3/4. I'll make the negative sign go with the 3 and go down 3 and to the right 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first line looks like that. We want our line to be perpendicular through it, so we want it to cross at a 90-degree angle, and we want it to go through 6/4 down. So we want it to go through that red dot right there. So what are we going to use for the slope? The slope currently is -3/4. We don't want to use -3/4 for our slope though. We want to flip the sign, so instead of negative, we'll use positive, and instead of 3/4, we'll use 4/3. So that's the old one. We're going to use this one. So we'll use that m, that x, and that y in the equation. So for y, we'll plug in -4. For m, we'll plug in our positive 4/3. For x, we'll plug in 6, and we'll solve it for b. So to multiply these two, 4 times 6 is 24, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. When we subtract 8 from both sides, we get -12 for b. So our answer for the equation is the perpendicular slope, the 4/3 next to the x, and then our y-intercept -12. When we graph that, if we start down 12 and count our slope up 4, right 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, we can see we will get a line that goes through the red dot, and it appears to make a 90-degree angle with our other line. Last example also will be perpendicular to this line. Let's first graph it. We're going to start down 7 on the y-axis and go up 5/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 6. So there's the first line. Our line needs to go through the point 0, -2. So 0/2 down. The slope we need to use, currently the slope is positive 5/6. The slope we need to use is not going to be positive, it'll be negative, and it'll be 6/5. So we're not going to use that slope, we're going to use this for the slope. So let's plug the information into the equation. For y, we will plug in -2. Our slope, we will use -6/5. Our x is 0, and we'll solve it for b. Anything times 0 is 0, and so the y-intercept is -2. The equation of our line will be the perpendicular slope, -6/5x, and then our y-intercept -2. Let's graph that. Looks like we already have the y-intercept through that red dot. We need to count down 6. I'll make the 6 negative and the 5 positive. Down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when we connect those dots, we see that those lines also appear to cross at a 90-degree angle. For your homework, you do not have to graph the lines. I did that just for visual purposes. You're welcome to. Some people like using the graphs to help them find the y-intercepts, and that's fine, but you're not required to.